It wasn't Auburn. It wasn't LSU. This time it was Marshall, but it was again a victory. Of course, UCF beat Auburn 2 years ago in 2017 in poetic justice, being left out of the college football playoffs. Last year, not good enough to beat LSU, losing 40-32. But then again, this year, after a Peach Bowl and after the Fiesta Bowl last year and 2 New Year's Six Bowl appearances, UCF dropping down a couple rungs to take on Marshall, and they were way too much for Marshall at 48-25 in the lone, the one college football playoff game, or bowl game, I should say, bowl game of this fine day with the NFL taking charge tonight. I just got done watching some of the Vikings and Packers with Green Bay winning. Pac-12 over the Big Ten at quarterback. Aaron Rodgers over Kirk Cousins, as Green Bay is now 12-3 and Minnesota falls to 10-5. But we talk college football here at the Voice of College Football, and we've got a call-in show as we prepare you and we all get set for a big college football playoff weekend. So imagine at this point next week, we're going to know who will match off in the national championship game. It's coming up this Saturday night, of course, with Clemson and Ohio State facing in the nightcap, following LSU and Oklahoma. I hope that you've joined us for our many video previews. We have attacked Ohio State and Clemson from 6 different perspectives and angles. We have 6 previews posted on Ohio State Clemson from a number of different angles, from the LSU side and from the from the Clemson side and from the Ohio State side, and we're going to do it even more this week. We've got more Ohio State and Clemson talk lined up later this week to get you set for Saturday night. And then, of course, we've got Oklahoma and LSU, both today and tomorrow. I will be posting videos from both sides of that matchup. LSU, Pot of Gold, they do a fine job. They have joined the guest list, the lengthy guest list here at Mark Rogers TV, the Voice of College Football, talking LSU football. Speaking of which, it has been confirmed that LSU's Clyde Edwards-Helaire is questionable for the college football playoff game against Oklahoma on Saturday night. We will delve into that as we have in our video posts, so please check those out, in which we have broken down the matchup between Oklahoma and LSU and the casualties on both sides. Edwards-Helaire on the LSU side, most notably, and of course the suspensions that have cost Oklahoma. But word coming out today on social media and elsewhere, some credible sources reporting that Oklahoma will have the services of defensive lineman Ronnie Perkins, and also the running back Ramondre Stevenson, as they have appealed the NCAA. And there is word out there that those appeals have been upheld. So the appeals have gone through, and that those 2 players will suit up for Oklahoma. So we've got a key backup running back in Stevenson, and the top sack man on the defensive front for Oklahoma. The other player, the 5-star defensive back, who's a true freshman who is only playing on special teams, can't remember his name off the top of my head. He reportedly will still be sitting out due to suspension. Oklahoma safety, second leading tackler, their leader on defense, their leader certainly in the secondary, he will miss the game. He's got a broken collarbone. And so Oklahoma's got a big miss there in trying to deal with that. LSU passing game, and specifically the tight end, maybe some slot receivers. And then, of course, the LSU running game, as the Oklahoma safety, can't remember his name. I just had it right here. But the Oklahoma safety who broke his collarbone is, again, the second leading tackler on the team and the guy that is really the run enforcer. So Oklahoma cannot afford to lose defensive stars, and they've lost one due to injury, and they may, unless this suspension is overturned, going to lose their top sack man and their second leading tackler. So again, check out the posts. Also, I'm taking calls at 860-325-3687, 860-325-3687. I will get the number up. There it is. Talking college football playoffs, the bowl games as well. I caught about half of the game in which UCF dominated Marshall. And one of the bigger point spreads of the bowl season was UCF over Marshall by about 15 points. And I chose UCF. If you get my college football playoff predictions and my bowl predictions, you would know that. So that drives me up a tick to 5-4 against the spread. 6-3 overall, so I'm not bragging about 5-4, but keep in mind, as you know from watching me during the college football season, I don't cover the group of 5 extensively, and so I'm very not familiar with the group of 5 teams and personnel, and so I've got to muddle through the early bowl season trying to predict these games of teams that I have not seen play. I can only watch so much football, and I choose to watch the Power 5. I enjoy the group of 5. Especially the Mountain West and the group in the American Conference, high quality, high level of football. But aside from some Thursday nights and Friday nights, that's the only time I have time to watch it, because the rest of the time with the Power 5 and all the games that I have to cover and watch on Saturday, of course, the group of 5 needs to take a back seat. But that's the number right there, 860-325-3687. Let's check out the live chat as we run down again the news from today. Oklahoma suspensions, the injury to the safety, and then on the LSU side, the status of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who has been confirmed as questionable, if that's such a confirmation, questionable for Saturday's game. Brutus Buckeye, thank you so much. Merry Christmas to everyone out there. If you enjoy and celebrate a different holiday season, whether that's Happy Hanukkah to you, certainly we celebrate with you. But for me and for mine, it's Merry Christmas. And for most of us out there in the United States in particular, it's a Merry Christmas. So Merry Christmas to everyone. But again, Happy Holidays as well to all that are watching. And right here and beyond the walls of the chat room currently, out to the Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football community out there with 17,000 strong on the main channel and 21,000 total. Merry Christmas. And thank you so much for making 2019 an exceptional year right here at the voice of college football. And 2020 is going to be, I have no doubts, even better. Thanks to you. I've really done basically nothing different in terms of what you can see in doing my very best to provide the best analysis, discussion, and debate. So I'm doing the same thing in 2019 than I did in 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, and 13. It's you. You are making the difference with the encouragement, with the support, with sharing the videos out on social media, with encouraging people to hit the like button, with your contributions to the super chat. A number of people, James Scott in particular, in our Florida State live stream tonight, was encouraging and prompting people to use Amazon. So I know that Christmas is basically over in the Christmas shopping per se, but how many people are going to be purchasing stuff after Christmas when it goes on sale? Use the Amazon link, please. Use the Amazon link in the description section of any of the videos to help us build the channel. Jordan OH, and then Brutus Buckeye IO. DF Sports, go Buckeyes. Mark, do you think OSU will come out and try to do what we did against Penn State and run aggressively? What's interesting about that question is that it's quite obvious anytime you watch a major matchup. It's typically obvious to see whether, in this case, you have a very balanced attack. Obviously, Ohio State is loaded at wide receiver, has a quarterback with 40 touchdowns and 1 interception, who's also a dual threat quarterback with more than 10 touchdowns rushing, 50-plus touchdowns and 1 pick. and then has one of the top 5 running backs in the nation as well, with a stout offensive line. So they're strong in both categories. So do they say, we're going to pound, and hopefully show cracks in the Clemson defense, move up the safeties, creep up the corners, have everybody thinking run, and then we start to hit them, gash them? Or do we throw early to set up the run? Or in many of these big games, it's not distinguishable because they mix up the run and the pass from the beginning and want to keep the defense honest from the beginning and mix up the play calling. My one reservation about Ohio State's attack against Clemson is the health of Justin Fields, his left knee. He had to wear that cumbersome, bulky brace against Wisconsin, and I think that limits him somewhat. Yes, he's still mobile, but it limits him from being just a mobile quarterback from what he truly is when he's healthy and ready to go and doesn't have that brace to deal with. And that's a fully dynamic, one of the best in the nation, dual threat quarterbacks. From the running standpoint, one of the very best in the nation. A fast Jalen Hurts, a big, tough kid that will take on a linebacker or safety, but also brings the explosiveness that Jalen Hurts cannot. Jalen Hurts is fast. Don't get me wrong, but Justin Fields is a more capable runner as an explosive runner than Jalen Hurts, in my opinion, from watching the two play countless times. Jay Jobs, good to see you. Thank you so much for reminding everyone each and every time you jump on the live stream that the voice of college football. Thank you. And yes, happy holidays to everyone. DF Sports, Merry Christmas. Glad all of you could join me tonight. Fish 08, can we just get to the final signing day? Fish 08, you could possibly elaborate on that. Apparently, with your team maybe not having the best of early signing periods, you would like to get to that first Wednesday of February. Got a call coming in. We'll take it and continue to look at the live chat as we've got 20 on the line. And again, you folks didn't know this was coming, and it's my aim and goal after the national championships game to get us set on a live stream schedule for the off season. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's McD Sports 4. How are you doing?
McD, I'm doing great. How are you? Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And so I was going to talk about the bowl games, obviously, but I want to start off with Maryland recruiting, how Maryland flipped a 5-star from LSU. You don't see that normally, but that was nice to see.
Okay.
So what do you think about Maryland flipping Raheem Jarrett from LSU to Maryland, keeping him home because he's from D.C.?
When I saw that, I instantly thought of you, and I thought of Michael Locksley, because I thought, okay, what is he saying to these kids, and this one in particular? But of course, he's got geography on his side in this one in particular. They're wooing him back home, or keeping him home, I should say. So I think that's impressive, especially when they don't have a whole lot to go on, whether it was a good season to back up the proof of concept. That's not there. Nor is the other, list of 5 and 4 stars for Michael Locksley to say, hey, this is who you're going to be playing with. So that's impressive for him to be able to do that. Let me ask you this. This is a bit off the beaten path, but this is going to help our coverage down the line. McD, who do you go to for Maryland football coverage? Because I would love to be able to bring on some quality guests to talk Maryland football. Is there anybody in particular?
No one in particular, to be honest. I kind of just go through on different sites like ESPN, Fox, Rivals, 24/7. I'm sure there's someone out there. I mean, I don't know who that is, but if you want me to try to find somebody for you, I can do that.
That would be great. Throw me some names of some quality Maryland football recruiting people and just Maryland football coverage. I would love to get them on here.
Fair enough. And I think we're maxed out because I think we have 27 spots and we signed all 27. The only thing about this recruiting class, I don't like two things. I wish we would have gone out and maybe signed another 4-star or two, because it's 1 5-star, 1 4-star, and 25 3-stars according to 24/7. And so I wish we would have maybe gone out and maybe signed another 4-star or two. And also, the number one player in the country is in Maryland, Brian Brees. Actually, was really right down the road from me. His high school is just right down the road, about 15 minutes away where he played at. I wish we would have kept him in state, but he's going to Clemson. So those are my only two complaints. But besides that, it's a recruiting class that I think is respectable. It's right where I expect Maryland's recruiting classes to be, right around that top 25 mark. Like, I don't expect us to be like top 10, because if we have a top 10 recruiting class, I think there's going to be some suspicions, like Ole Miss when I forget the guy's Hugh Freeze, he had that top 10 recruiting class at Ole Miss and suspicious moves. But I expect us to be around 25-ish, maybe get into the upper teens here and there. So it's a decent recruiting class. The only question is, can we develop this talent? Because there's a bunch of 3-stars, and hopefully last we can develop the talent. But that's all I have to say about Maryland recruiting. These bowl games are coming up. I think I already talked about the Con Bowl, and I want to say the Sugar Bowl with you. And I think I already talked about the New Year's Six Bowls. I want to talk about more of the non-New Year's Six Bowls. The Holiday Bowl is going to be a good matchup.
Yep. I love it.
USC and Iowa. I can't wait for that. I mean, I didn't realize how good of a matchup that was earlier tonight. So I'm happy to see that. Notre Dame and Iowa State, I think, is going to be a good matchup. Alabama and Michigan. I feel like Alabama's going to blow out Michigan, honestly, in the Citrus Bowl. So that's why I feel like it's going to happen there. But I really think we're going to get some interesting bowl games. Like the Military Bowl, I think is going to be a good one. The Pinstripe Bowl, I think is going to be a blowout. I think Wake Forest is going to run that Michigan State out the building. But I really feel like we're getting some good bowl games coming up here. What's your 3 favorite bowl games coming up, Mark?
My 3 favorite bowl games. So, yeah, this is the time for me. So I love the bowl games even from the first game. But again, because I focus on the Power 5, the group of 5 teams I'm not as familiar with. And, of course, the matchups just aren't as glamorous. And that what we've seen, aside from, as you know, the Las Vegas Bowl has typically been a nice matchup between the Mountain West champ and some team in the Pac-12. And we just didn't get a good game this year, but it looked like it was going to be a good game and a good matchup between Boise State and Washington. But now that we get to Christmas, and then the day after Christmas cranks up the Power 5 conferences in the games. So my 3 favorite matchups outside the college football playoffs would be Holiday Bowl, USC, Iowa. It would be, I'm intrigued. This could be a blowout. It could be a blowout, much like it was last year with Auburn involved, but I think Minnesota is a much better team than Purdue. I am intrigued to see if Minnesota holds up against Auburn. I think that could be a good game at the Outback Bowl, and I really like the Notre Dame-Iowa State matchup as well. I don't know that those are my 3 favorite. I would have to think if there's anybody else that sneaks in there. I am not crazy about the Orange Bowl with Florida and Virginia. I would like to see a better matchup than that. I think Virginia Tech and Kentucky is going to be competitive in the Belk Bowl. I'm not crazy about it, but I think that's going to be a nice game. Penn State and Memphis is intriguing. Wisconsin and Oregon. So take out one of those 2 games. So I'm going to go, if I can only go with 3, I really want to see Wisconsin, Oregon, USC, Iowa, and I'll go with, what was my 3rd game? I'm going to go with, I thought I had somebody besides Minnesota. Let's go with the Notre Dame, Iowa State game. Those are the games I like. I really want to see.
And all 3 of those games are good games. I mean, a few other ones I'm looking forward to. Michigan, Alabama, even though I think Alabama's going to blow them out. Utah and Texas, I think
Oh,
Utah's
yeah.
going to run them out completely.
Do you? Yeah.
Utah's going to run them out completely, in my opinion. I think Navy, Kansas State could be a bit of a sneaky matchup.
Yep.
That could go either way.
I like that.
I think Arizona State's going to blow out Florida State. As you said, Virginia Tech, Kentucky, I think that's going to be competitive. Cal, Illinois, that doesn't really intrigue me much, per se. I think Louisville's going to blow out Mississippi State.
They're going to blow them out. You think so? Really?
I think talent-wise, I think Mississippi State might be a bit better, but Louisville is such a disciplined, well-coached team, and I don't think Mississippi State's that well of a coached team.
Hey, McD, going back to another game that you brought up, and I find it interesting that I am on par with you. I am in the same mindset that Wake Forest is going to be better prepared and ready to go. Michigan State just has a cloud over that program and over that team. And for a team that has been one of the best defensive teams in recent years, they have just crumbled defensively, and they've never been any good offensively over the past couple of years. And Vegas loves Michigan State. They've got them as a 4 or 5 point favorite in that game over Wake Forest, and I really like Wake Forest. As I'm thinking about it right now, I really like Wake Forest in that game too.
Yeah, I think Wake Forest is going to beat them by at least 3 touchdowns. That Pinstripe Bowl is always a blowout, by the way.
It's always a blowout. It's always a blowout? Well, certainly Wisconsin and Miami last year. I don't know about that. But remember, we had a great overtime game between Duke and Indiana a few years ago. We had Iowa and Boston. Was it Boston College? Boston College played a really good game. That was just last year. No, 2 years ago. 2 years ago, Iowa Boston College played a really good game. Penn State and Boston College played a really good game. But last year was a bad game.
Yeah, Oklahoma State and Texas A&M. I like that from a geographical standpoint. Yep. That game could be competitive. I'm not sold on A&M, but that game could be competitive, maybe. And I think Louisiana Tech's going to beat Miami. I just feel that it's going to be coming. Miami's one of the teams that I think had really high expectations, and it backfired on them. So I think Louisiana Tech is actually going to pull off the upset there. A few games that already happened. I'm happy that Liberty got their first ever bowl win in the Cure Bowl.
Yep.
I'm surprised about the result in the Central Florida Marshall game. I thought Marshall, with the best bowl record of all time, will get the win there.
I laid the 15 on that one, McD. I laid the 15
for UCF.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I just thought that Marshall was the best bowl record. UCF, kind of a disappointing season. Maybe Marshall will catch them napping a little bit. But good that UCF got the win there. Utah State, Kent State was an entertaining game. So I watched that. And the Boise State-Washington game, I think Washington was going to win that game no matter what, because they wanted to send Chris Pearson off on a good note. I don't know if he's going to come back into coaching in a year or two. Supposedly he's just taking a break because he wants to recharge himself. But I thought Washington was going to win that game. But I thought it was going to be a bit more competitive. But it is what it is. Washington, I think, talent-wise, is actually pretty good, like top 25 in the country. It's just that they're in the Pac-12, and they're one of those teams I don't think could compete with the big boys. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens to Memphis against Penn State, because if Memphis is blown out by Penn State, these Appalachian State fans are going to be all over the committee for picking for the New Year's Six Bowl thing, because I know it was UAB and they only beat them by 2 touchdowns, but it's possible that Appalachian State might be better than Memphis. I mean, personally, I think Memphis is better at the end of the day, but I think Appalachian State fans, if Memphis gets blown out, there might be some complaining there out of North Carolina.
Well, Appalachian State wasn't that impressive in its bowl win.
It wasn't that impressive, and I know that, but I mean, it could be more disappointment because they were hoping to get into a New Year's Six bowl. But I really feel like if Memphis gets blown out, Appalachian State might the fans might get a bit upset. And they have a big fan base, Appalachian State.
I was not aware of that.
Yeah, they filled at South Carolina Stadium when they went up against South Carolina. So, and a few other bowl games before I let you go, Mark, that I just want to give my 2 cents on. Florida, I already said that one. Boston College, Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati wins. Indiana, Tennessee. I think Tennessee wins that game. Indiana, they were 8-4, but all 4 of the losses have been to teams that are much better than them, and they basically got ran out the building by those 4 teams. Even Michigan State, they hung 40 on them. So, and I know my Terps.
Whoa.
They're 3.
The Michigan State and Penn State games were close. Those were close games against Indiana.
Am I mistaken?
Just gonna hold you accountable on that one, McD. You know me. I'm just gonna hold you accountable. Yes. Ohio State 51-10. Michigan scored the last 30 points of the game. They beat them 39-14. The Penn State game was a 1-score game, and that was a really good game down to about 4 or 5 minutes left.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah. So,
in Happy Valley. And Michigan State 40-31. Peyton Ramsey threw for a zillion yards and touchdowns, and that's when Michigan State started to fall apart on defense.
Yeah,
but to your point, McD, Indiana, I was thinking about this the other day without looking at their schedule. They benefited from a weak Big Ten schedule. So, of course, they play in the East. They got to play the 4 heavyweights. Well, Michigan State no longer, but the 4 good teams out of the East. They got a very light touch out of the West. They didn't have to play Wisconsin. They didn't have to play Iowa. They played Nebraska, Purdue, and
Illinois, probably.
Yeah. They didn't play any of the good. I think they played Northwestern, who had an awful season. So they played the 3 worst teams in the Big Ten Western Division.
I mean, and Tennessee, I really think it just came on. I really liked what I saw from Tennessee in the second half of the season.
Yep.
Going out there on the road against Michigan and Kentucky and finding ways to win games, I thought was huge for that program in general. And just a sneak peek to 2020, I think Tennessee gets a home game against Florida and Alabama. They have 2 home games against both of those teams. I would not be surprised if they pull off the upset against one of them in 2020. But that's just that's far away. But I think Tennessee wins that one. I think Southern Miss and Tulane will be an interesting game. I know it's Group of 5 versus Group of 5. But I think that will be interesting. And that's just about it, basically.
Yeah, of course, New Year's Day is a great one with Michigan, Alabama, Minnesota, Auburn, Oregon, Wisconsin, and Georgia, Baylor. That's, of course, a huge day. And then leading into the playoff games, you get the 2 decent matchups with Notre Dame, Iowa State, and Memphis and Penn State. Yeah, a couple days coming up here. I'm fortunately going to be off work and ready to roll and just really cover these games and watch them and analyze them. And we'll jump on live streams constantly and break down these games. We got a lot of good stuff here. I find it interesting in the bowl season, McD, that once the big boys get done playing on January 2nd and really January 1st, and then you get the 2 games with BC and Cincinnati and Indiana, Tennessee, SEC Big Ten in the Gator, that they throw out those 3 stragglers bowl games. They're just kind of like one-offs between those games and the championship game with the Idaho Potato Bowl, Ohio, Nevada. Then you've got the next day, you've got the Armed Forces Bowl with Southern Miss and Tulane, the game you just mentioned, and then the Lending Tree Bowl with Louisiana taking on Miami. Just kind of a Group of 5 lower tier games, just kind of to throw some college football before the championship game, because otherwise we'd go from the 2nd to like the 13th
13.
without any football, 11 days without any Power 5 football. So that's kind of strange.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the championship was usually that next Monday.
Yes.
So they moved it back a week. It looks like possibly. So
well, they got caught in kind of a, let's see. So if they're playing on the 28th, the next Monday is obviously only a couple days later, but then they don't even play the next Monday. They give them 2.5 weeks off.
Yeah, you would think it would be that January 6th.
They give them, I shouldn't say 2.5 weeks. They give them 2 weeks and 2 days. They give them 16 days off, where before it's been more like in the 9 to 10 day range.
Yeah, it looks like they gave them an extra few days off. I'm sure someone complained about it. I have a few head coaches in mind that would have complained about it. So that's basically all I have, Mark. I'll keep on listening. I'm not going to be commenting much in the chat. I'm playing video games right now, but I'll keep on listening.
I appreciate it, McD. You have a great night and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, too. Go Terps.
McD running down the bowl games. That's what we expect him to do. Yeah, Chase Young's from Maryland. Does OU have a shot? Yes, they do. They've got a shot, but they're not as good as LSU. They win that game 25% of the time. LSU is too talented. They're too good defensively. But can OU win the game? Yes, they can win the game. We have all sorts of examples of teams winning postseason games and playoff games. Well, we don't have a whole lot of playoff games. So let's go through the brief history of the playoff. So what do we have? In 2014, and this may be the biggest upset in the history of the playoff in 5 years, Ohio State as a 10-point underdog beat Alabama. Because the other game, Oregon was a substantial favorite against Florida State. They blew them out by 39. And then in the national championship game, the odds makers in Vegas had not learned its lesson that Ohio State was basically an NFL team, that they just beat Alabama by a touchdown as a 10-point dog in New Orleans. And inexplicably, I don't know how this has happened a few times, that Vegas has made Oregon a favorite over Ohio State when, if you match up the two rosters, they're really not comparable. They did it in the 2010 Rose Bowl, and they did it in the 2014 national championship game. They made Oregon a 5-point favorite. Well, of course, the Buckeyes beat them by 22. So actually, there's two upsets right there in the first college football playoff. Ohio State is a 10-point dog, beat Alabama as a 5-point dog. They beat Oregon. Then in the 2015 playoffs, Bama was a huge favorite. They blew out Michigan State. Clemson and Oklahoma, that was like a 1 or 2 point spread. And it was a very close game at halftime. And then Clemson took them out 40-21, I believe, was the final in that game. And then, of course, that set up the Clemson-Bama matchup. Bama was a double-digit favorite, something in the range of 10 points, I believe. And, of course, won by 5. 2016, we had Ohio State Clemson. That was a 2-point Clemson favored game. Clemson blew them out 31-0. Then we had, of course, Alabama Washington. Alabama was a substantial favorite, 13 points, something in that range. They won by 17. And then, of course, Alabama Clemson. Alabama, a pretty substantial favorite of 7 or 8 points in the championship game. So Clemson pulls off the upset. So there's another upset, not a huge, enormous upset, but as a 7 or 8 point dog, Clemson beat Alabama in 2016. 2017, Alabama was a pretty substantial favorite against Clemson in the semifinal game by 6-7 points. They won by 18. Other game was, of course, that classic at the Rose Bowl between Georgia and Oklahoma. They went to overtime. Georgia was a 10 or 11 point favorite in that game. And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I might be wrong by 1 or 2 points in these games, but I typically remember the point spreads in these games and the final scores. But Georgia was like a 10 or 12 point favorite against Oklahoma, beat them in overtime. Then, of course, the national championship game, Alabama was a 6 or 7 point favorite against Georgia and won 26-23 in overtime. 2018, last season, of course, we had Clemson, Notre Dame. Clemson, 10, 11 point favorite, blew them out by 27. Alabama was a 13, 14 point favorite against Oklahoma. I remember this one stabbed me right in the back. Picking Alabama to cover. They gave up the late touchdown that was meaningless, only won by 11. They were up by 18, 38-20. They won 38-27. So Bama almost covered, but still won comfortably over Oklahoma. And then, of course, in the national championship game, Bama was a favorite. I don't remember the spread. It was like 4 or 5 points. Something in that range. And then, of course, Clemson blew them out by 28. So we've had a few upsets. We've had a few reasonable upsets. The biggest ones, again, were Ohio State over Alabama is a 10-point dog. Clemson over Bama is about a touchdown dog, 8-point dog in the 2016 game. And those would be the substantial upsets. So here we have one, LSU Oklahoma with the Sooners, a 13-point dog. Do they have a shot? Yes, they've got a shot. They can win this game. Don't think they're going to win the game. I think they win this game 25% of the time if they played 100 times, but they're only playing once. So if they could beat LSU 25 out of 100 times, that means they could win Saturday night. Just like Florida would probably beat LSU 25 out of 100 times. So they could beat them. They played them this season and they lost by 14. It was a good game. Florida had a lead in the third quarter. But typically what happens is that the better team ratchets up a notch. They have the higher ceiling, LSU does, and they just don't have all those question marks in the secondary along the defensive front. LSU basically doesn't give us any questions. Oklahoma gives us all sorts of questions. Typically, the team that provides less questions will win the game. We've got some Clay Helton talk in the live chat. Of course, he's been retained. He's coaching. For better or worse, USC fans, typically the ones that I hear from, do not want Clay Helton. They were not happy, pissed off about Clay Helton being retained at USC. He's won twice as many games as he's lost, which sounds really good, but at a place like USC, it's not a great record, 40-21. It's a good record. It's decent. If Ohio State hired a coach or Alabama and they went 40-21, they would get fired. Those teams are winning 90+% of their games. And really, that's what USC wants to achieve. They've been one of the top 5 programs in the history of the game and one of the top 5 programs since the 70s. And certainly in the 2000s under Pete Carroll. Clay Helton's a good football coach. He's a good football coach. He's a capable football coach. He is not a high-level, high-achieving football coach. I can't think of a time in which I thought Clay Helton engineered this win. I've always thought USC won this game because they had better players, especially on the outside, especially at the wide receiver spot, especially at quarterback when they had the likes of Sam Darnold in particular. Because the secondary is loaded with talent, not because Clay Helton really engineered this win. He really outcoached the other guy. David, I would say that Nathan Stanley actually has been a disappointment as a college quarterback. He's a good college quarterback, but he has an NFL arm. And the disappointing aspect of Nathan Stanley's career is that he started at Iowa for 4 years. He's basically the same quarterback as a senior as he was as a freshman. He still makes the same mistakes. He's still a scattershot. He's got a cannon. He can make all the throws, but he doesn't make them. His footwork, his technique has not improved. He still is not as accurate a passer as you would expect with all those reps and having played like 50 college games. He's been the starter since his freshman year. Nathan Stanley, he has played an entire career at Iowa as the starting quarterback, and he's good. He's good. He's capable, but he plays some clunkers too. He played some really poor games over the past couple seasons. And I don't like saying that because I like Nathan Stanley and I like to watch him play. I just expected after his freshman season, knowing his ability, his ceiling, and that he had played and started as a freshman, I thought by the time this kid's a junior and senior, he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and he's not. Jay Jobs, that's clearly what was missing out of Boise State's game plan against Washington. When they don't run the Statue of Liberty, can't expect them to win. Betting advice from David. Take Bama minus 7.5 against the team up north. That's probably true. Snake Spencer says Bama by 4 touchdowns. That could be a little heavy, but I wouldn't be surprised. I think Michigan's one of the 10 or 12 best teams in the country, and Alabama's more like a top 5 team. Forget the 2 losses. We had a conversation a few weeks ago when Baylor was gunning for the college football playoff, and I was trying to distinguish between who has earned a playoff spot and has a shot at a playoff spot versus who are the best teams in the country. And I clearly said that if Alabama and Baylor walked on a field together tomorrow and I've got to lay down my mortgage or my life, it's going Bama's way. And I don't even give it a thought. And I lay 10 points. Jay Jobs, does Iowa really play well in bowl games? Do they really play well in bowl games? I'm going to tell you, Jay Jobs, that I, off the top of my head, would say that Iowa is under 500 the last 10 years in bowl games. They won last year over Mississippi State, but Iowa has not been that successful in bowl games under Kirk Ferentz. We'll look at their run of bowl games, and I could recite these off the top of my head. I really could, and that's not bragging. It's just to say that I'm a nerd that remembers this stuff, but I just, at this time of night, I don't feel like doing it. All right, last year, Outback Bowl, Iowa beat Mississippi State 1-0. Year before, they won the Pinstripe Bowl over Boston College. I mentioned that to McD. 2-0. 2016, Iowa lost to Florida in the Outback Bowl. Year before that, they, of course, got trounced in the Rose Bowl against Stanford. So there's 2-2. I need to prove my point about Iowa. Jay Jobs, I appreciate you. I love you. I'm not trying to make you look bad. I'm just going through this because I'm interested. The year before that, they lost to Tennessee, so they're 2-3. In 2013, they lost to LSU, so that's 2-4. In 2012, they lost to Nebraska, that's 2-5. In 2011, they lost to Oklahoma, that's 2-6. Jay Jobs. 2010, they beat Missouri, that's 3-6. So that's in the decade, they're 3-6. Anyway, we'll stop right there. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
This is Anthony.
Hey, Anthony, how are you?
Mark, I have a question actually. With bowl game, about the bowl games and stuff like that. Do you think honestly these lower level bowls would benefit from having a better way to raise the level of these lower bowl games, make them matter more, have the teams instead of having like these FCS teams who win their national championships and stuff like that going. Why not just have it
the regular Power 5 schools and stuff like that.
Okay. So to raise the attraction of the low-level bowl games, you want to do what?
You know how they usually allow the FCS team who wins their national championship to get an automatic bid into the bowl game and stuff like that?
I'm not aware of that.
The lower level bowls.
What FCS team is playing in a bowl game? You lost me.
No, my mistake. Instead of using the lower, instead of having Buffalo, teams like Buffalo or something like that in the bowl games, why not have the teams in the lower teams in the Big 12 or Big 10 in the bowl games to make it more palatable? Because I think that's why people don't really watch these bowl games. It's because they don't have teams.
Anthony, I appreciate your comment. It's apparent that you don't have interest in those games. But so my first question is, how do you know people don't watch those games? Do you have the television ratings?
The rating, I read an article saying that the ratings are not that high for those bowl games.
Compared to what?
Compared to the New Year's Six or the college football playoff.
Well, of course, when Marshall and UCF or Central Michigan and San Diego State play, they're not going to gather the audience that Wisconsin and Oregon will in the Rose Bowl. But it doesn't matter who you put. So you're going to take the worst teams in the Power 5. So like Georgia Tech 3-9 and Northwestern 3-9 should go play in a bowl game.
Yeah, to have more name brand more notoriety into the game. You know more. You don't. You know more about the casual fans. Know more about Georgia Tech or Illinois or something like that.
I hear you. I understand exactly what you're saying, Anthony. If you're taking me, I watch Power 5 football. That if Northwestern and Georgia Tech play tonight, I know the players. I know who they are. I follow Northwestern and Georgia Tech, but they're both 3-9. We're going to put them in a bowl game just to get a few more people to watch it. And I don't know that more people would watch that than would watch a couple of 9-3 or 10-2 group of 5 teams play. I don't know that that's the case. And I don't know what you're reading. This is bowl
so
games
you don't agree with the
well.
article saying that you don't agree with the concept of what this article is trying to say?
I would have to read the article.
The ratings.
So, Anthony, would you do me a big favor? Take that article, copy the link, send it to me in the comments. Not in this live stream, but just pick out a video and send me that link, and I'll read that article.
What's your prediction for the La Tech Miami game on Thursday?
So I don't reveal my predictions here, unfortunately. So they're available.
Where could I get the predictions?
So we've got our Voice of College Football community there on Patreon. Would love to have you over there, Anthony. So if you
can't afford. I'm so sorry, but I can't. I don't have the money to.
I certainly appreciate that. I appreciate you calling. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate you watching. So always understand that. I appreciate that, Anthony. And do you have any other questions?
What's your opinion on Chris Peterson retiring from Washington?
I think that somebody who's achieved as much as he has certainly has the right, as we all do, to choose what is going to make us happy. And apparently the pressures have gotten to him, and he just does not want to deal with the pressures of major college football right now. And that's how he
Yeah,
explained it.
and I think another thing is what fans don't realize. With the fans constantly yelling for them to do better, you're burning the coach out faster. Why do you think they leave and stuff like that, and they don't enjoy coaching as much? It's because the fans, if they don't rise to the level of what the previous teams did, they start calling for the coach's head and stuff like that. Do you think that's another thing? Do you think that's a reason why Chris Peterson left Washington because of the fans' pressure of him not being a 10-2, 11-2 team, constantly being in the Big 12, Big 10, Pac-12 championship?
Absolutely. By all indications,
Thank you for.
By all indications, what Chris Peterson said is that he still loves working with the kids and coaching football and the practice and the games, and he still enjoys the camaraderie and mentoring young men. It was the pressure of the game. And yeah, at Washington, it's not the biggest pressure cooker in the country, that's for sure. It's not Alabama or Ohio State, but it's still, they're expected to win. And so he feels that pressure. I don't know that Chris Peterson couldn't have gone 7-5, 3 or 4 consecutive years at Washington and maybe taken some criticism, but he would have kept his job. I think
that's the reason. That's another reason why I think Mark Richt retired. It's because of the pressure of the fans, as well from Miami.
Yeah, but you got to take the good with the bad. So these guys aren't making $50,000 or $100,000 a year. They're making $4 and $5 and $6 million a year. So they're being paid at an elite level to win. So that's the trade-off.
Do you think it's harder to coach, in your opinion, when you look at coaching in general, head coaching in general? Is it harder to coach in the NFL or in college football?
That's a great question. The aspect of it that I do not envy for the coaches that have to coach in college football is that they've got to keep track of 105 18 to 22-year-olds and keep them in class, keep them eligible, keep them out of trouble. That doesn't happen in the NFL. Yeah, there are guys doing stupid things in the NFL running amok, but generally at that point, they've gotten married, they have a couple of kids, they've learned a few lessons, and there's still some screwballs.
You have to realize too.
Yeah, and they want to continue to make money. So there are less stupid decisions made, just like the rest of us hopefully made less stupid mistakes at the age of 28 or 30 than we did when we were 18 or 19. So just the pressure of just the academic requirements and keeping these kids clean and in class and away from trouble. When you're not talking about a basketball team of 12 kids. You're talking about 105. That, and then the recruiting, the grind of recruiting, when in the NFL you have a player personnel director and a general manager who are in charge of the NFL draft and acquiring the talent. You simply coach the talent, the roster. But to go out there and have to beat the pavement in recruiting day after day after day in college football is a grind.
And do you think it would benefit colleges for the sports area, like the athletic director, to be able to have a background in scouting? Like, for example, like some fans want Blake Baker to leave Miami and have them bring Alonzo Highsmith, someone who has experience with scouting and stuff like that in the NFL. Do you think it would benefit colleges to do that, hiring front office people from the NFL to become athletic directors or anything like that?
I'm sorry, Anthony. I'm not really following your question.
Do you think it would benefit college football to look into hiring, like the schools, to hiring athletic directors who have experience in scouting departments in the NFL? Like, for example, Alonzo Highsmith says he wants to come to Miami and stuff like that. Do you think would benefit teams like Miami or some to hire a front office personnel person from the NFL, from an NFL front office who knows how to scout and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, talent evaluation is huge, but these major teams seem to be doing a fine job as it is. But yeah, talent evaluation is the same. It's evaluating how a person is
I
going
think
to.
it would streamline it better, is what I'm saying. So instead of having multiple people, do you think it would streamline it better to have a structure in the athletics department to where you have it set up like a front office scouting department in the NFL to streamline how they recruit and stuff like that?
Well, the
So
coaches,
not put so much pressure on the coaches.
the
head
coaches,
and
the
stuff like
coaches
that.
the coaches are still going to have to go out and recruit, because what the young men want to see is they want to build a relationship and see what coaches they're going to have to deal with and work under and work with on a daily basis. So to have some personnel director show up from Iowa State and talk about the school and the football program is only going to resonate so much with that young man. He wants to know who his position coach is, who the head coach is, and he wants to build a relationship with them.
The reason why I said that is because the perfect example is, let's say a person like Alonzo Highsmith comes in with the head coach on the recruiting trip and goes into the kid's house, and he puts basically a Super Bowl ring and a national championship ring on the table. Do you think that would resonate a lot more than just showing national championships and stuff like that? With a person with a kid having a front office personnel a front office person like a athletic director who understands how to win championships as well, not just a coach.
We're still going to have the same teams and the same programs winning national championships. Yeah.
So you don't think it would?
I don't really see where that's effective.
Okay, so you don't think it would help streamline recruiting, bringing in a guy like
it's going to make it more complicated. What it's going to do. It's going to make it more complicated.
Thank you for answering my calls, Mark. Have a good Christmas.
Thanks, Anthony. You as well. I appreciate it. All right. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Yes, there are better players in the South, Jim John. It's not even close. South is better, especially in the trenches. Those boys are just built different down there. I would actually, John, argue the other way, that the big difference is at the skill position players. There are plenty of tremendous offensive linemen in particular, and defensive linemen in Iowa and Nebraska and Wisconsin and Ohio and Pennsylvania and those states, as opposed to there being a difference in the quantity of exceptional players at defensive back and wide receiver and running back in the South versus the North. I don't have the numbers right in front of me to back that up, but I think you would find that. If you want to go to the top 300 players in the nation and divide them between the North and the South, you're going to see a clear distinction between the South and the North, and probably 80 to 20%. But you're also going to see that the North brings, and you would have to go beyond the top 300 because that's just skimming the top. But it would give you an indication that the North provides linemen. Keep that same energy. Remember, Iowa absolutely embarrassed Ohio State. Yes, they did in one particular game. There's no comparison between the two programs, of course. Yeah, I would say that in the South, yes, they don't care about hockey, certainly. Basketball is somewhat sporadic. Of course, Kentucky's the exception. They do care about baseball. So baseball is a huge sport in the South. I cover the SEC. went to all the games for 7 years, and LSU, Mississippi State, Alabama, Florida, those schools are big, relatively speaking, in baseball. And the only competitors you will find in terms of popularity would be going to Texas A&M, Texas, the University of Texas. Now, the schools out in California, Stanford, Cal State Fullerton, play really good brands of baseball, but they don't have the fan base. How does Michigan beat Bama? Well, people are just down on Michigan and believe Alabama is just going to beat them like a drum. I haven't seen any scores that come anywhere close to Michigan making this a competitive game. It seems like everybody thinks Alabama is just going to beat them like a drum. Michigan's a good football team. Alabama's a better football team, but Michigan's a good football team. I have not really dived into that. We did cut a couple different previews of Alabama, Michigan, but that was after the game was announced. I don't know who's sitting out in particular on either side because I have yet to really dive into that portion of it. All right, got a call coming in. Let's see what we got.
The call will start at the beep.
Hey, it's Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
What's up, Marcus? JT Sport.
Hey, JT, what's going on, man?
Nothing, man. So I want to ask you a question. So what's going on? Because you know a lot about college football than I do. Plus, you're in the business. So what's going on with CBS and the SEC? Are we about to see Gus Johnson and Joe Clark calling SEC games? Because that would be gold.
Why do you bring that up? What's going on?
Because I was just interested to know and like what was going on with the CBS deal and things like that. I was just reading something about it, and I thought maybe you would know something about it.
Well, Joe Klatt and Gus Johnson work for Fox.
But like they said, like if CBS doesn't pick up the deal or renew the deal with the SEC, there's the potential that maybe Fox could pick it up.
Oh, well, sure. That goes on with all the major sports. When the contract runs out, then there's certainly there's a bidding war for that particular sport. That happens in every sport. So if there's a 5-year contract, for example, where the SEC is contracted to CBS and the 5-year contract runs out, even though CBS has continued to pick up that contract historically, excuse me, that I need to drink some water so you can keep talking.
Yeah, and then another thing is like the transfer portal is about to get really interesting, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a story out there about how D'Eriq King, the quarterback for Houston, you know, he chose the red shirt like a couple of seasons into the college football year. And the speculation is that he's going to transfer. And a lot of people think he's going to end up transferring to Georgia because he followed Georgia's offensive coordinator on Twitter and things like that. So if D'Eriq King was to go to Georgia, how good do you think their offense will be?
So sorry about that, first of all. Secondly, D'Eriq King, the games that I've seen him play, he's a very capable quarterback, not just as a dual threat guy, but I think he's a pretty exceptional passer. And so certainly it would be Georgia would be best served to take the lead of LSU in particular and change its offense for a D'Eriq King and update its offense and let him really work with the kind of tempo and the kind of spacing that he should. Now, getting back to the first question about Fox and the SEC, yeah, again, those contracts run out. We just don't hear much about it in this particular case because the SEC and CBS have been partners for such a long time. They just automatically renew and extend the contract. But Fox, as we've noticed, jumped in with the Pac-12 and the Big 12 whenever it was 4 or 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And then they grabbed up a lot of the best Big 10 games just here in the last couple years. And now they are probably going to go for the jugular. That's been Fox Sports' MO for the last 25 to 30 years, grabbing up Major League Baseball and the World Series. And now they own that property. The NFL, now with college football, they used to show lower level games. I'm not going to call them garbage games. I almost did. But they have, with every contract, they've eaten up better and better real estate in college football. First, it was the Big 12 and the Pac-12, and now they're showing the best games in the Big 10. And it wouldn't surprise me, yes, that they would shoot for breaking the bank and going for the SEC next.
Okay, and my last question is, so Ohio State has beaten some of the best teams in the Big Ten this year, right?
Yep.
And Clemson, we know how good of a team Clemson is, but Clemson hasn't really played anybody good. Now, I know that's not a legit argument of we know how talented Clemson is, we just know, but why is Clemson favored to win the game? I think the line was like at 2, now it's at 1, I think. Why is Clemson favored to win over Ohio State? Because I know Vegas looks at everything, but Ohio State is double tested, and plus, Justin Fields should be near 100%. So why is that?
Okay, well, let's understand that Vegas likes certainties. So they typically go with the team where there are less question marks. They love certainties, and this Clemson team is a certainty when it comes to performing in the postseason. And very few of these Ohio State players have performed in the college football playoff. And the only ones who have were freshmen in 2016. So they're two extremely talented teams. If you go through the metrics of the advanced metrics, they're the two most dominant teams in the country on both sides of the ball. Not discounting LSU offensively, but in terms of complete teams, these are the complete teams. And yes, Ohio State has beaten better teams. They've just played a better schedule. That's all there is to it. They have played a better schedule. There's no question about it. But Vegas is throwing in the metrics. They know what they're doing. And when you say 1 or 2 points, that's very minuscule. It's basically a pick'em game if it's down to 1 point.
I got you. So it's more about who Vegas trusts more, basically.
Yep. They want to eliminate question marks.
Okay, well, thanks for answering my question, Mark. And keep up the good work with your channel, man. I've really been watching all your videos lately. I really enjoyed the Michigan one. That one had a lot of views when Michigan once again got clobbered by Ohio State.
I appreciate that, JT. Thank you so much for calling. You have a great Christmas, happy holidays, and Happy New Year.
Same to you, Mark.
Our man, JT. Getting the job done. We appreciate the call. And I apologize. I got something stuck in my throat there for a few minutes and got a little choked up. And just needed some water. A lot of talking today. All right. Who else do we have here? So I also apologize because I get behind on these comments. So it's 12:41 right now. And this comment I'm about to take or just took to the screen was from 12:17. So I'm sure you guys have made all sorts of good comments. We got a super chat contribution from JT Thompson. Thank you so much for that. Trevor Lawrence has never lost a college game. Absolutely. Jay Jobs likes Iowa against USC. All right. 12, 22nd, 32, 45. This guy has commented a number of times recently, and I appreciate you joining the channel. Hey, Mark, what do you think about a separate group of 5 playoff? I definitely watch Boise State, App State, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, this is what I've said many times, is that if I was in charge of the whole deal, if I was the commissioner of college football, I would make one of 2 rulings. Either we have to do one of 2 things. We have to include a playoff. We have to build a playoff system that either legitimately includes the group of 5. Right now, we are giving them lip service to say that they're involved, that they're considered because we put them in the rankings. That's almost like a tease. It's not legitimate. So we would either include them objectively and put them and give them a place at the table, or we would say, you know what, group of 5, you are not good enough. We are going to split the Power 5 and the group of 5, and we are going to play a Power 5 college football playoff. And the group of 5, you can do whatever you'd like to do, and they could play a separate playoff. And that would be fine. That would probably even be better, because legitimately, I can't think of a group of 5 that could team in recent memory or at all that would be able to most likely make it through a playoff of 2 or 3 wins to win a national championship. But there would always be that possibility that we would see, okay, how would Memphis do? How would UCF do? How would these teams do? Boise State, how would they do if they had to play 2 and 3 consecutive games against the Power 5 elite and try to win a national championship? Or do you just want to see really good football amongst the group of 5 and have that team that is the best, would prove to be the best in the group of 5, hold up some kind of national championship banner, just like they do in FCS play? Y'all think this guy will cry on camera after Ohio State gets abused? This guy, I guess, would refer to me. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm sure all of you can just imagine me bawling my eyes out up here if Ohio State loses. Just like I did. You could look it up on my channel. You could look it up on my channel when Ohio State lost to Oklahoma in 2017, or Iowa. When Purdue beat Ohio State last year, I was just a nervous wreck. I was just a blithering fool up here. I could not speak. I was just at wit's end, just sobbing and bawling. Yes, I basically refused to go on camera for, I think it was 2 weeks. You didn't see any videos out of me after Clemson beat Ohio State. I wasn't on here for 2 weeks. I was just a mess. I was circled up in the fetal position in the corner. Yeah, I couldn't speak a word. Absolutely, keep that same energy. You got me pegged to the hilt. Yes, I will not be here if Clemson beats Ohio State. You can count on it. I will not be here posting college football videos and doing my live stream after the Clemson Ohio State game. Actually, do you think this guy is probably not really watched much? I've noticed your handle for the last few days, so I appreciate you watching. Believe me, I do. I very much appreciate you watching, and it's just funny that you make this comment, because I would love to see if you can tell in any way. If Clemson beats Ohio State, it would be interesting for those people that don't know who I root for, if they would have any idea that they would be able to tell. No, we run a professional channel here. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Marcus, Chris.
Hey, Chris.
I was just calling to talk a little bit about Ohio State and the job Ryan Day is doing after Urban left.
It's exceptional.
Yeah, it is. I don't know what to think. Is he really that good, or was it Urban's players, Urban's foundation? It's just they're going to coach for a while and then they'll come back down to earth. Because when he left Florida, it was nothing like this.
Yeah. So I know that during our Ohio State show this week, in speaking with the beat writers that are at the practices every day, talk to Ohio State people in and out every day, they thought I posed the question, what's the difference between Ryan Day and the way he's conducting business and Urban Meyer? Which obviously Ryan Day has learned a ton from Urban Meyer, and it would be foolish for him to upset the apple cart. And he has stated that he has taken all the good that Urban Meyer has taught him and established there, and he has just continued to run the program, but while also implementing his own approach and philosophies. And one of those seems to be that maybe the players are a little bit less on edge, that they're a little bit more comfortable, that they're having a little bit more fun with Ryan Day in charge. Maybe Urban Meyer was a little bit too much of a driver. Now it's difficult to criticize what Urban Meyer has done as a head coach, arguably the greatest in the history of college football and the best winning percentage in modern college football. But obviously, this team did not have a letdown that we saw the past 2 years.
Yeah, I actually think this is probably the best Ohio State team I've seen, even ever since Urban's even gotten there.
Well, let's see them complete the mission. Let's see them play these 2 games or the 1 game, and they would need to play the second game to win the championship to compare them to the 2014 team, because that team looked mighty impressive down the stretch against Wisconsin, Alabama, and Oregon.
Yeah, they just look so dominant to me.
They do
all year long. You guys, I'm from Florida, so I actually root for all of the Florida schools. And when Urban left, I mean, we haven't made it back yet. So, you guys, good luck up there with that. Oh, the other thing I wanted to talk about was the kind of the playoff system and what I see happening now. Kind of seems as though ever since we've gone to the playoff format that we have right now with 4 teams, that there are fewer teams that I kind of look at every year and I actually feel that can make that Final Four. It seems like maybe there are 7 or 8 teams that I actually believe that can actually win their conference and even challenge for that spot. Do you see that?
Okay, so you're saying that there are less teams that are elite teams now that you can see winning a national championship than 10 years ago?
Yeah, because I see talent has always wanted to go where there's winners.
Mm-hmm.
But I see more and more talent teaming to go to Clemson, Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, of course. I see it kind of a thing that, hey, everybody wants to get to the playoffs, and they're making these teams are loading up, and it doesn't really seem as though I can see teams coming to be competitive with them anymore.
So that's an interesting point. I think you bring up a good point here because I haven't really thought about that. So certainly before the BCS championship game, if we go back to the poll era, you could go and basically kids were thinking, okay, if I go to a Pac-12 school or at the time a Pac-10 school, a Big Ten school, I'm going to go to the Rose Bowl, and probably didn't even give a whole lot of thought to, are we going to get voted number 1 and win a national championship? But I'm sure it was discussed. Or if the SEC, they send their champion to the Sugar Bowl and so forth and so on. But there was less hyper focus on finishing number 1, winning a national championship. But with this playoff, as you mentioned, and I've stated this many times, basically since the playoffs started and this transition in the ACC has gone from Florida State dominance to Clemson dominance, which took place in around 2014 into 15, basically Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama, and Oklahoma, with Georgia moving in there a little bit, those 4 or 5 teams have dominated college football. They are the teams that we discuss all the time and the only teams. And yeah, there's a Baylor, there's a Washington, there's that makes a little bit of noise, but it basically those teams have owned those conferences for now 6 years. And that's pretty much it. You're right.
Yeah, and when we look at recruiting going forward, I don't see any of that changing.
No. And obviously LSU and Georgia have challenged Alabama to a certain extent because there are more players in the South and the SEC is as good as it is. But there's not much to decide. I love college football. I cannot emphasize how much I love college football, love watching college football. But once we were in August, at one point, I was asking all of you on the chat a number of times, is it boring to know right now? We know Clemson's in the playoff. We got a pretty good idea, either Alabama or Georgia or somebody in LSU obviously tricked some of us and they got in, but Oklahoma, Ohio State, basically those teams are going to be in the playoffs in some order, some fashion. And here we are in December, and that's what it is.
Yeah, I kind of feel as though it was better before, and with the transfer portal, I think it even makes it worse because I mean, you think about how Oklahoma's been able to. Okay, well, we're gonna get Kyler this year. We're gonna get Jalen or they'll just bring somebody in. Or I mean, to think that Ohio State's quarterback was a backup on Georgia last year. There's so much talent on these teams. These guys can't even see the field. This is a Heisman finalist, more basically. So,
absolutely. Anything
all
else?
right, Mark. Well, good show.
Well, I appreciate the call.
That's it.
Thank you so
All
much. I
right.
appreciate it.
Good time, dude.
Bye-bye. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. It's 1:00 in the morning, and so happy New Year's Eve, or happy Christmas Eve. Let's not jump ahead too far. We would have missed the college football playoff if I was right. Happy Christmas Eve. Hopefully you will be able to spend that with family, friends, those people that you love and are closest to you. For me, it's myself and my 2 kids, and we've got our running traditions that we certainly adhere to now that they're 23 and 20. We still do. And I will be able to spend time with other significant people in my life very soon in the next few weeks. So that's good to know as well. All right. I will apologize, as I do from time to time, about the number of comments that I bring to the screen. Let's keep in mind that so you guys spit out way too many comments for me to get them all to the screen. That's a good thing. And I hope it increases. And we've got how many people on here right now? Probably 59 people here at 1:00 in the morning on Christmas Eve. So hopefully a year from now, we're sitting here and there's 1,000 people online with us, and the live chat's just going to be going haywire. And so I can only take so many to the screen. And then in addition to that, if the application that I run that allows me to take the comments to the screen, if it adjusts, then I can't go back and grab some of the comments, because for a number of weeks, people were getting a little bit surly with me in criticizing and thinking that I was trying to avoid their comments. I'm not trying to avoid anybody's comments. Certainly, if somebody's offensive in the live chat, I will remove you from the live chat, but I've seen a lot of good college football talk tonight, as I typically do, and I want to get as many comments to the screen as possible. The only ones I leave out are when you guys get in your own conversations and the comments don't make any sense outside the context of the conversation. I'm not going to take those comments to the screen. All right. I am pumping out content. I just talked to an Iowa State guest today. We set you up for the Notre Dame bowl game and Iowa State recruiting. Also talked some LSU football today and another angle on the matchup with Oklahoma. So please check out those videos. And I've got a whole lot more. I watched most of the UCF Marshall game. I took notes. And if I'm going to grind it a little bit more tonight, I will cut a video and post it on UCF football going forward. I did the same with San Diego State the other night, and I never got to it. I've got San Diego State, believe it or not, after watching the Aztecs win big. I've got San Diego State information here with number 13 in the nation in points per play defensively, and number 4 scoring defense in the nation, number 5 in points, yards per game given up, and notes from the New Mexico Bowl that I have yet to post a video on and won't at this point because that's long since forgotten. San Diego State notes. I'm nuts. I have got to be nuts. But that's why it works right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, because we love the same game that you love. And we will be here a ton, especially once we clear Christmas and get to December 26th. I have a ton of off time, and I will be watching college football and cutting videos, instant analysis, bringing on guests, and live streaming, just talking college football playoffs and bowl games ad nauseum all the time. So we appreciate you stopping by. We appreciate your support. And please like the videos. Please like the videos. At the very least, like the videos, please. And once we hit the off season, I will let you know how you can help us build the channel in other ways. If there's a comment or question that you've left in the live stream, in the live chat, that you would like me to respond to, please copy and paste it and leave it in the comments section of any of the videos, and I will hopefully find it there. But I'm going to lose it if you just leave it there in the live chat. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, whatever applies to you. Please spend it with the people that you love and enjoy it. And certainly remember and keep in mind why we celebrate Christmas. There is a reason we celebrate Christmas. Someone extremely important to all of us, because we exist only because of him, is the reason we celebrate Christmas. So thank you so much for joining. I may be back at some point tomorrow, probably not live. I will not be on live tomorrow. I've got much to do and people to spend my holiday with. Probably on Christmas night. When it's all said and done, we'll be back here talking college football. So don't be surprised if we've got a live stream on Christmas night, because what is the Christmas holiday? To me, it's Christmas Eve. You go into Christmas Day, you open gifts, and it's pretty much over. I've got to work for a few hours on Christmas Day, and then I'll be back here. Yeah, I believe we're going to do a live stream on Christmas night. And then the bowl games take off on the 26th. And so I'm going to pump out as much content as I possibly can. I may not sleep between December 26th and January 13th. I may just stay up constantly. I may just plant my rear end here and just talk college football and watch it constantly. Something like that. It may not be quite that fanatical, but we'll do something like that. Right here at Mark Ryder TV, the voice of college football. Thank you so much for everyone, and your support means the world. And we'll see you soon. Jesse, thank you. I appreciate it. Hark the herald angels sing. Yes. Glory to the newborn king. Absolutely. Great comment to be left right there. Merry Christmas to everyone. Happy holidays to all. Dante, thank you so much for the comment right there. Need some sleep to stay alive. Yes, we will get our sleep. Don't worry about me. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. We'll be watching the games, and we will keep you informed, and we will be providing analysis and hearing from you, because all together, yes, I'm the voice of college football, but no, it is the complete voice. Together, we are the voice of college football. Merry Christmas. See you soon.